Hi, you're welcome to The Point of View. The Point of View is a favorite current affairs program on television. On The Point of View, we select the right topic, bring the relevant guests, ask relevant questions, and we often leave you with insights. You can join the discussion, as always, via our WhatsApp line 0550585832. The show is also live on Facebook. You can drop your comments there, and then we'll read them out to the rest of the world. Tonight, we have a discussion on what we call the chaotic build-up to Ken Ofori-Atta's final budget, a review of what happened in Parliament yesterday in that hearing session of the motion of vote of censure on the Minister of Finance brought up by the minority. And yesterday we saw the minority leader Haruna Idrisu and Ato Forson, ranking member on the Finance Committee, lead the charge. They laid out their claims, and as it stands, the finance minister and his team are looking at the charges or the claims, and at the appropriate time within the 7-day period, preferably on Friday, they will have a response to all of that. It is an interesting time, really, for Ken Ofori-Atta and the government. He's having to prepare for the 2023 budget, which comes off sometime next week, we understand. He is also in the thick of affairs of the IMF negotiations, very, very crucial for the budget, for the country's economy, etc. And also having to deal with the motion of vote of censure. Very, very, very interesting times for him. All of this in the context of a challenged economy, intra-party revolt, etc., etc. What really are the options for his employer, the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo? We will look at all of this in today's discussion. I'll take a short break, come back, introduce my guest, and then we will start the discussion. You're welcome once again. You're welcome back to The Point of View. We are live on YouTube, Citi TV, and then we are there. Drop your comments there, and then we will read them out to the rest of the world. You can also join the discussion on your WhatsApp line, our WhatsApp line 0550585832. Tonight, we're looking at what we term the chaotic build-up to Ken Ofori-Atta's final budget. Very difficult time for Ken Ofori-Atta, and maybe his employer and the government generally is having to deal with a number of things. Preparing for the 2023 budget, which comes up next week, we hear. IMF negotiations, we don't actually even know where we are with it, but the president in his last address says that it was going very well. He was also yesterday, the whole of the day in Parliament, having to endure that long session, obviously tired, we saw, the motion on the vote of censure. Economy is challenged and is the one leading the president's economic policy. He has intra-party revolt. The majority caucus of Ghana's parliament, his own people, want him out. And indeed, that has spawned a number of things. Earlier in the day, we heard of a supposed allegation that Gabriel Asarotri-Dakun was accusing the majority leader of being the ringleader of all of what is happening in Parliament against Ken Ofori-Atta. Majority leader also responded in equal measure. Gabi came back to say he never said anything like that, and said he sent him a message. So something which didn't happen, supposedly, is been said to happen. A lot of issues happening around that, all as a consequence of Ken Ofori-Atta's problems, if you like. So that is the discussion tonight. My guest for our discussion will be Professor John Gachi, who is Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School, Dr. Patrick Esumi, who is Senior Lecturer, University of Ghana Business School, and Inusa Fuseni, Honorable, former MP, Tamale Central, on the ticket of the NDC. These are my guests. So we'll take you back to what happened yesterday, show you a brief excerpt of what the minority's points really were. Here's Harun Idrisu, the minority leader, laying out some of the 6 or 7 charges against the finance minister.
Opportunity, the chairs will give you the opportunity to execute that duty. I'm told that the Honorable Minority Leader will first make a statement, and then the Honorable Atto-Forson will then proceed with leading the evidence in support of each of the grounds. So,
thank you very much. Chairman, if I have your indulgence, understandably, I would like to proceed by tendering in Parliamentary Debate Official Report of 10th November 2022 in evidence, which is the motion I move, which was ably seconded by the Whip, the Honorable Muntaka, expecting full debate. And Chairman, as I said, we are dissatisfied with the performance of the Honorable Minister for Finance, and we think that he's not competent enough to continue to hold office as Ghana's Minister responsible for Finance, because, Chairman, as we have said, so since I took counsel on gross 7, gross mismanagement of the Ghanaian economy, which has occasioned and told and unprecedented hardship. I'm just taking one.
Sorry, what are you doing now? Go on, it's settled. Go on.
Honorable Minority Leader, may you proceed.
So, Chairman, we have grounds, and grounds, I'll just take 2 and yield the floor to the Honorable Atto-Forson. And as I said, let me start with National Cathedral. Ghana, very respected religious country where there's coexistence, both Muslims and Christians alike. Nobody is against the President promising and honoring God with the cathedral for the purpose of the expression of the Christian faith. But when public resources is used for that purpose, it needs us to call into question. So the clerk of the committee, I just gave you a warrant signed by the Honorable Minister for Finance for some amount of money for the cathedral. And that's what you're holding, the first document. Just give me that. So I'll tender this in evidence and say that we are aware that by a warrant signed by Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, Minister, 29th October 2022, an expenditure of 142,762,500 Ghana cedis was allocated for the construction of the cathedral. Want to know when parliamentary approval was granted for this purpose. And then also I refer to the Auditor General's report. Chairman, when we say, for instance, I just pick 2, as I said, I'll yield to the Honorable Atto-Forson. Fiscal recklessness. Today, what is Ghana's national debt position? We have been told by the World Bank and IMF that our national debt stock exceeds 450 billion Ghana cedis. As was inherited in 2017, it was 120 billion Ghana cedis. Servicing debt, the amount of money we now spend as a country to service debt at end of year 2021 was 37 billion Ghana cedis, ballooning to 45 billion estimated by close of this year. This can only be as a result of irresponsible borrowing.
So you saw Harun Idrisu there, the minority leader, leading the charge on the grounds that they have brought against the finance minister. He spoke on the debt situation, and then he spoke on the National Cathedral. Later on in the day, there was elucidation on the various grounds. Now let's look at let's hear counsel for the finance minister, Gada Sorosudakun, make points about the provision of certain documents that his client will need. If you recall, the right to counsel was a major issue in that parliamentary session which led to the creation or the formation of this ad hoc committee. The point is that Article 82 says that, which deals with the vote of censure, that at the debate or during the debate, in fact, the phrase during the debate became a major issue. During the debate, the minister may be heard. If the minister so wishes, the minister may be heard. So being heard means that the minister will be available or present to be heard. Now, how about if the minister wants to be heard through his counsel? He has a right to that. So that became a major issue. And so as part of the reasons the speaker gave for forming this committee, which the minority vehemently disagreed with, this committee is to provide the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, Finance Minister, the opportunity to be heard. So here, he chooses to be heard through his counsel, who is Gabi Asari Ochri Dako. So let's hear some of the things he said, typical of counsel on matters like this.
Raised. We do not know which one they are talking about. If you go further, let me just skip to the last charge, charge 7. It says, gross mismanagement of the Ghanaian economy, which has occasioned untold and unprecedented hardship. If you give us PIAC report, if you give us staff reports of 2018, 2019, 2020, with all due respect, it would take us about maybe 2 months to go through all that. And it would not be fair to the Minister of Finance to be ambushed and right here, without any preparation, to start answering questions. And in any event, Mrs. Chairman, if we do not constrain the accusers within the 4 walls of what they intend...
I think he objects to being called an accuser.
Well, how would you like to...
Very, very strongly. I mean, if I quote the president, where he himself says that the
I do apologize.
in crisis.
I do apologize.
We are...
I do apologize. May I just... I do apologize.
And then, Chairman, if you can just 1 minute, you see...
let me just finish.
21st June 2022,
I don't want to get involved.
Appeared and gave us evidence that Data Bank benefited 159 million between 2017 to 2021 from bonds issued and from borrowing. And then, Chairman, as I said, National Cathedral, we see a warrant signed by the minister for 142.7 million. We'll tender that in evidence. We'll back it with evidence. Thank you.
Mrs. Chairman, first of all, my apologies for calling you an accuser. Mrs. Chairman, all we are asking for, and if I just, let me just repeat, before we start this proceeding, all we are asking for, in the interest of justice, is that we should be furnished with the full particulars of the facts in support of each of the allegations contained in the letter. And then, the supporting document.
If I may.
All right, so you heard counsel for the Finance Minister, Gabi Asari Dako, there, trying to get some more specifics on the allegations or grounds that the motion for censure, vote of censure, is being anchored on. All right, so we want to begin our discussion tonight. Once again, my guests, Professor John Gachi, Dr. Patrick Isumin, and Honorable Inusa Fuseni. Gentlemen, you are welcome to the program. Let me start off with you, Professor John Gachi. I guess you followed somewhat the proceedings yesterday. What would be your initial, or what were your initial impressions after yesterday's proceedings? Hello, Prof. If you can hear me, I'm just trying to get your initial impressions from yesterday's proceedings.
Well, I think yesterday's proceeding is largely partisan. It's largely partisan, and we are getting the impression that if we are not careful, it is not possible to get the needed import of the censure motion as a play before Parliament. again, the nature of the composition of the committee is largely going to create problems, especially as you could see that the minority is actually working very hard to make their point, and the majority side in the committee are also making sure they derail the efforts of the minority. So the public interest is largely going to be lost by the nature of the composition of the panel. That is what I can say as a preliminary comment.
I see. Dr. Patrick Esumi, do you get the same impression?
Yeah, good evening and good evening to my fellow panelists.
Hello, Doc. Dr. Patrick Esumi.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. I'm just finding out from you if you share the same view that your colleague, Professor Gachi, has expressed.
Yes, largely. I mean, it didn't come across as exactly what we need at this point, given the circumstances we are in. It looks like there's going to be a lot of politicking and people arguing along their entrenched positions along the party line. So it didn't come across to me that we are going to make too much progress with this committee.
All right. So interesting that you were actually expecting something else or something different from what we saw. Because for many, that was the nature, that was the essence of the committee or the gathering, just to provide a platform for the minister to be heard. And so it's obvious that it's going to be split at the end of the day, 4 against 4. So they will submit a report to Parliament, and then Parliament will debate that report. So by the time Parliament will be debating that report, the minister would have been heard. I'm not sure whether he would again be heard during that debate. But the whole essence, in my view, was to afford the minister an opportunity to be heard. And before he will be heard, the grounds or the allegations will have to be laid out, which was what we saw yesterday. And in laying the allegations out, of course, there will be 1 or 2 interjections and arguments here and there. Honorable Inusaf Hussaini, am I right in my assessment of what happened yesterday?
Well, what happened yesterday did not come to me as a surprise. Clearly, recent events in Parliament demonstrate that if you don't want parliamentary work to be done, consign it to a committee. We saw the excessive partisanship in the Privileges Committee when the Honorable Member of Parliament for Dominic Corbinian's issue came out vis-a-vis the breach of Article 97(1)(c). And when Speaker Bagbon decided to constitute a committee as an ad hoc committee for the purposes of investigating the matter contained in motion for the censure of Ken Ofori-Atta, I thought it would these events showed that unless something dramatic happens to the views of the 2 major political parties represented on the committee, it's actually going to be a stalemate. And so what happened in Parliament confirmed my worst fears.
I see. That's interesting. But of course, that's what a lot of people think it is. But we have seen finance ministers. We've seen finance ministers in this 4th Republican era. But it appears that Ken Ofori-Atta has a special place with his employer, the president. Why do you think that? And I'm speaking to Inusaf Hussaini. Why do you think that the president appears to be placing so much premium on this particular finance minister? Is it based on a filial, or should I say a blood relation, or it is purely based on his competence? Because given what is happening, it's so easy for a president to just say, okay, you've done your bit, just move on, and let's have the government run its course. Why do you think that the president is keeping faith with his finance minister this way? Hello, Honorable Yunus Afuseni. It appears the Honorable Yunus Afuseni's line is not hearing me properly. Or Dr. Sumi, if you are there, why do you think that the president is keeping so much faith with his finance minister?
No, it's not a matter of faith. It's a combination.
Say that again.
May I? So it doesn't matter to me.
Hello, Dr. Sumin. I can hear you, so kindly speak. Yes.
Okay. So it doesn't appear to me that this is necessarily because of the family relations. I mean, the president has been very reluctant to make changes to reshuffle as we are used to seeing. So, and we've had other ministers who, at some point, were not performing well at all. I mean, we've had issues from the health minister at some point during the COVID and some problems that he ran into. And then, some people argue that maybe the agric minister too has had some issues. But those people are not necessarily related to the president. But the president has also shown, has been very reluctant to make changes. So it's easy to conclude that maybe because he's related to the finance minister. My sense is that it's a general view that the president holds he wants to keep his team, not necessarily because of the family relations.
I see. So he will keep the team, or he will keep the finance minister, even as it appears that his government will be drowning or is drowning with it. Look at the situation we've had in Parliament, which is what we are seeing really unprecedented. Over 80 members of Parliament, hold a press conference to say the president should cause the finance minister to resign or sack him. Otherwise, they will not participate in government business. Quite unprecedented. It didn't just end there. Now the entire caucus, we understand, is ad idem with these 80 MPs, which in essence means that the finance minister is lost parliament. Why should anybody want to keep, this person at post? Honorable Yunus Afuseni.
Like I said, it's a combination of things. Yes, Dr. Asumit says that it's not necessarily down to family relations. But it also comes to that. It comes to also the fear that the president thinks that if he reshuffles his ministers who are not performing, that will be an assessment of his administration as a non-performing administration. After all, the constituent parts of his administration are those under attack. And if those constituent parts are under attack, it means that the government of the Qatari is under attack, and the president is also seeing it that way. Thirdly, the government is largely composed of people who have some form of relationship with him, either his friends, his family, his close associates, people who came from him from far, and so he thinks he has a duty to continue to protect them. And that is making the work of the president difficult. And that is the level of insensitivity of the president to the plight of Ghanaians. Clearly, what the president is doing currently demonstrates the level of impunity which was threaten the concerns of Ghanaians. I agree entirely with Dr. Asime when he says that, look, probably it's not only the finance minister. Many ministers in this administration are clearly not performing, are clearly not on top of their brief. But at any given opportunity, the president is wont to sing praises to his ministers on the floor of the House, on TV stations, on radio stations, on tours across the country. So this is a president who will be reluctant in changing minister. It is reported that when the matter of the finance minister raised in cabinet, the president retorted that this is the finance minister who supported him financially to win in 2016. Clearly, apart from the demonstrable family relations between the president and Ken Ofori-Atta, there is also an economic relationship, a sense of having the unholy, if you want, a duty to continue to maintain him in office because of what he did for him in the past. And I have said that if a majority of the people of this country are calling for the sacking of the finance minister in the form of 98 members of the majority in parliament and 136 members of parliament who have filed a motion to remove the minister constitutionally. Both numbers, the 98 and 136, clearly demonstrates that the majority of the people of this country want the finance minister off. After all, the 98 and the 136 represent constituencies and therefore represent the people of this country. And they now currently form the majority. 234. It is the height of impunity by any executive president to treat a call of this nature with impunity.
I see. Interesting points you raised there. But I'll take a short break now. I'll come back and then we'll interrogate those factors, better or deeper. We'll also look at, what the impact of what is happening, call it the chaos or seeming chaos, what impact it will have on government business and even how the markets may be responding to same. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
Alande. Make I walk you through my everyday life. Busy from the morning light. My to-do list long, shadow fit to overlap. So sharp, turn on mobile app. School fees check, light bills check. Do I'm with speed like a G4 jet. Be at the day, I am not upset. Check, I don't even use checks, city check.
Join the Absa family and make fast, easy, and safe transactions with our digital products. Log on to absa.com.gh. No long thing. We like them simple and easy.
Believe me, no long things in my life, though. Like I'm simple and easy.
The power. The performance. Concentrated power. Concentrated performance. The partnership of Concentrated Power. So Clean, the official regional partner of Paris Saint-Germain.
You're welcome back to the Point of View. My name is Selorm Adonoo, sitting in for a regular host, Bernard Pokwable. Tonight we're looking at Ken Ofori-Atta and what he's been going through. There's been a motion of vote of censure ongoing in Parliament. There's an IMF negotiations currently ongoing. We understand that budget for 2023 will have to be read next week. And there's an internal revolt against Ken Ofori-Atta from his own party, amongst many other things. We're looking at how that will impact government business generally and even the markets. Before we went for the break, the Honorable Yunus Afuseni made a comment that it appears that from what is happening in Parliament, majority of Ghanaians want the minister off. Professor Kachi, do you think that indeed this is reflective of the aspiration of Ghanaians? Yes, some 136 MPs from the NDC side have signed, a certain motion, but indeed these are opposition MPs who will seize any moment or any opportunity to make the incumbent government look bad. You talk about the 80 or the 80 MPP MPs and even the majority. Perhaps, I mean, they are looking out for themselves. The economy is harsh. Things are hard, and so their constituents appear to be struggling. Is it not an easy target to say that Ken Ofori-Atta should go because the economy is struggling? Indeed, he has also explained that what Ghana is going through is not an isolated situation. It is a worldwide phenomenon. Indeed, we've seen in the US inflation go up, etc. Is it fair on the facts, and is it fair on Ken Ofori-Atta if we are all singing the same tune that he should go because the economy is not doing well, knowing very well what's happening around the world?
Well, I think it's not only parliamentarians. Ghanaians largely expressed the view that the finance minister should exit, and parliamentarians both on the side of the NDC and NPP are representatives of the people. So if more than half of the representative of the people, 136 from NDC, about 98 from NPP, if you add that one, that is more than half of number in Parliament. I think that is enough signal for the finance minister to voluntarily resign. But I believe the marking scheme that the president is using to assess the finance minister is quite different from what Ghanaians are using to assess the finance minister. You recall that when people were calling for reshuffle, he came back and said he cannot reshuffle a performing team. So I think the way the president is looking at the finance minister is quite different from what parliamentarians are saying, and it's quite different from what Ghanaians are saying. Again, it's quite different from what the market is reacting, how the market is reacting relating to the issue of the finance minister. So I believe if we value what we call stakeholder principles in governance, I believe the president would have known by now that himself and his appointees are stewards of the people. And if we have gotten to this point that the people believe that it is time for the finance minister to go, it is only proper to accede to the call of the people to replace him and allow the market to show a new sign, and as we go along. I believe that is how it has to be. But largely, we are where we are today because the president is assessing the finance minister based on a scheme which is not reflective of the view of the people of Ghana, and the parliamentarians are actually representative of the people. So we can't take it lightly. Again, if you look at the fact that 136 parliamentarians from NDC side and about 80 to 98 from the NPP side are saying the same thing, I believe the way the president looks at the finance minister, inherently the president might be thinking that the call for the removal of the finance minister is indirectly a call against the president himself. So I think that is how the whole thing is looking like now.
I see. The president has said that, of course, he's heard them when he met the 80 or so MPs, that he's heard them, but they should allow him a few more weeks. He is preparing the budget. They should allow him to present the budget, ensure the passage of the appropriation bill, see to the IMF negotiations, then they can have the discussion again. Clearly, it appears the president wants continuity in the process. He doesn't want a new person to come who will now come and steady the ship. You know, we don't have time. IMF negotiations, etc. It's not a good idea that the one who started the negotiations will conclude it for continuity's sake, Professor Gachi.
I think it's a very bad idea when you want to look at it from governance principle. Number one, this is a person who doesn't believe in the IMF program. So morally, it is even disturbing to have him leading the team. But that has been waived for some time. But the point is that nobody is indispensable. If you got to a point that those who put you there by their power says that, look, the one that you put at the finance ministry is not, they don't like him anymore. If you exit, I believe you just have to replace him. To say that you have to finish the IMF negotiation as if it's a personal negotiation is not encouraged. It's a teamwork. We have a number of people who can lead the team for the work to be done. So I think it's not a good reflection to think that the finance minister is indispensable, and without him, the process cannot continue. But the president has defeated that call by sacking the deputy of the Minister of State in charge of finance, Mr. Charles Edufuahin. He was also supposed to be sacked, but he said they should finish the work. So I believe that he has also actually created the impression that it is possible for the finance minister to go. So I do not think that call is proper. It's not rooted in good governance. It should be the president should have actually heeded to the call of Daniel. But as I indicated earlier on, I'm not sure the president believes that the finance minister is not performing.
Interesting. Dr. Sumin, is there any cost of this seeming intransigence of the president relative to the finance minister, to his government, and then also by extension, the economic outlook of the country?
Yeah, I think all this back and forth is not helpful, whether the finance minister is going or not going. When the president says, let him present the budget, let him finish the IMF negotiations, and then we have a discussion, there's a somewhat implicit admission that maybe something is not going well, and that, there might be, it might be time to make a change. If that's the case, you have to be decisive and make the change. I think the whole idea of, this has become like a mini soap opera running around. We are in very difficult times. We want a clear sense of direction and a united front. What the finance minister should be doing now is to be working hard, convincing Ghanaians, engaging with, critical stakeholders, the Ghanaian people, in terms of the direction we should be going, not what we are having right now. And I think, the president really didn't help matters with that. I think if you feel that a change might become necessary, I think you should go ahead and make the change. And then give a clear sense that, okay, this is has played a part in it.
All right. Yes. So, Angela Fuseni, just a brief one before we take our second break. Do you have the impression that it is Ken himself who wants to who is hanging on to the job? He loves the job, so he wants to do it, or maybe is the president who is convincing him to stay? What impression do you get, from your deep throat sources? Honorable Yunus Afuseni.
I get the impression, distinct impression, that the president is reluctant in letting Ken Ofori-Atta go. After all, we didn't elect Ken Ofori-Atta. We elected President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. Article 58 is very clear. Executive authority of state is vested in the president. He uses that executive authority in combination with Article 70 to appoint ministers. And the Constitution says that the one who appoints power to disappoint. As for the excuse that Ken Ofori-Atta was leading an IMF negotiations and was also prepared to present a budget to Parliament, is as ludicrous as it is senseless. Because assuming that for any reason at all, Ken Ofori-Atta is unable to perform his duties as a minister, will the president say because he's leading the negotiations and preparing to present a budget, he should hang on? Wouldn't the president make a change? So that excuse was a very, very lame excuse coming from a lame duck president.
But
for us as a people,
yes, I'm just saying
for
that
us as a people,
yes, Honorable, given the uproar and all that is happening, can't Ken himself say, Mr. President, thank you for the opportunity. I think I've heard a message. This is what the people want. I'm sorry, but I have to go. Can't he do that himself rather than enduring all of these things we are seeing, embarrassments, etc.?
But Ken Ofori-Atta has the support of the president. The power relationship between Ken Ofori-Atta and the president tilts in favor of the president. So we cannot, Ken Ofori-Atta did not appoint himself. We didn't elect Ken Ofori-Atta. He was in private business before he was made a finance minister by the president. And we are saying that he's led us into doldrums, the country economy into doldrums. In fact, his air pronouncements are incongruous with the excuse given by the president to let him lead the IMF negotiations. Because this is a finance minister who said publicly that he did not believe that the IMF was the panacea to the economic challenges facing the country now. This is the finance minister who publicly stated that Ghana was never going to the IMF. How can the finance minister who had made such categorical statements be leading an IMF discussion? Yes, and so a conscious or conscientious person would have said, well, I have made statements in the past, which statements will embarrass me if I lead the IMF negotiations and voluntarily resign. But Ken Ofori-Atta has shown that he's not going to resign. In fact, he's called our bluff. He said that since he is the person who got us into this situation in the first place, he must be the person to get us out. As if to say that he decides when to walk away and the president cannot fire him. And that is why I think, my honest view, that the president is lame duck when it comes to Ken Ofori-Atta. Because you can't have a minister say publicly that he, as a minister, led us to this economic doldrums and will lead us out. And the president hears that and continues to let such a minister be in office. I mean, clearly, this is impunity of the highest order.
I see. Very interesting views there. We'll take another break. We'll come back and see if indeed anybody's benefiting from this, whether the NDC is benefiting from this in any way, and what the ruling government should be doing, apart from maybe sacking the finance minister. Don't go away. This is the point of view.
The power, the performance, concentrated power, concentrated performance, the partnership of concentrated power. So Clean, the official regional partner of Paris Saint-Germain.
Finally, anyone can become a household.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You Go Flip, a real estate gaming platform that allows you to play and stand a chance of winning a house or cash or consolidated prizes, such as savings towards a house. Simple and easy to play. Visit www.yougoflip.com. Buy a ticket to enter the game. Wait for the end of the game to enjoy the win. Anyone can win. Flip it or own it. You Go Flip. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Play responsibly, not for persons below 18 years, and gaming can be addictive.
Alande, make I walk you through my everyday life. Busy from the morning light. My to-do list long, shadow fit to overlap. So sharp, turn on mobile app. School fees check, light bills check. Do I'm with speed like a G4 jet. Maybe at the day I am not upset. Check, I don't even use checks to the check.
Join the Absa family and make fast, easy, and safe transactions with our digital products. Log on to absa.com.gh. No long tail. We like them simple and easy.
Believe me, no long things in my life, though. Like I'm simple and easy.
Welcome back to the point of view on Citi FM. A few of your messages that have been coming through. This one from Godwin from Tamale says, Selorm, I think the finance minister must step aside or be forced to resign. We need bold leadership from Mr. President. Prince Henry in Ofori-Atta says the president should dissolve the entire economic management team and sack all the people on the EMT because they have failed woefully. Echa from Tantra Hills says the finance minister's businesses made more wealth at the expense of the country's fortunes. He must not only step aside, but must be prosecuted, you say. Justin in Ho says, why are there over 80 MPP MPs who want Ken Ofori-Atta out, not supporting the minority to kick him out? Partisanship will be our end as a people. The MPs must stand for the truth. You said Tomla in Mankranso says Ken Ofori-Atta claims he doesn't take salary. Ghanaians are saying thank you thus far, but he should simply resign because he has destroyed the economy beyond repairs and stolen a lot for him. He said, I mean, not very clean message in there. All right, so let's get back to the discussion. Dr. Esumi, is the NDC, for example, benefiting politically from all of this happening, we expected the majority side in Parliament to help them push this motion or vote of censure. So we have it done simply. They say they won't because they will not allow the NDC to take advantage of a situation. They will use backdoor means to get the man out. Is it a case that from everything happening, the NDC is benefiting from the intransigence, if you like, of the president to kick his finance minister out?
Well, I hope that that's not how the NDC is looking at it, because, beyond all the public show and all the, the shenanigans that are happening in Parliament, we have to understand that the country is in deep trouble, and something has to change, and the NDC also, the Ghanaians are looking. And I think, in essence, it sort of benefits the NDC, but they just have to be careful about how they go about communicating. I think it appears that the popular opinion is the position of the NDC, but they have to putting Ghanaians first and on their political advantage, because that's not what it should be about. It's really about how the difficulties the economy is facing, and concrete ideas and the suggestions for how to get out of this trouble, not necessarily the political advantage you stand to get. I don't think that's what Ghanaians care about. The Ghanaians want our real problems fixed. Ordinary Ghanaians are having difficulties paying bills, buying common food, and making ends meet. So I think that is really what that should be the bottom line, not necessarily what political advantage the NDC stands to gain.
I see. Professor Gachi, of course, this whole process happening in Parliament deepens executive accountability, and it maybe improves parliamentary oversight and all of that. But the concern really is that, given this precedent, tomorrow, if a group of minority MPs, for example, do not feel happy with a certain minister, they'll quickly get around and get the numbers, 1/3, about 92 or so, and kickstart a process like this. So we may have to be doing this over and over and over again. Wouldn't that be disruptive or even destructive to government business? And where will it leave us?
Not at all. I think when you read Article 82 or so of the Constitution, it is very clear that you don't just stand up and call for to put in place a motion for censure. A number of things have to happen. You need to follow some kind of procedure. You need to convince about 1/3 of Parliament to sponsor the motion. So for you to get to a point and indicate that a particular minister should go through that motion, it means that every something has been done, and that person is not willing to change and is not willing to demonstrate that is acting in the interest of the office that is placed, and to a large extent to Ghanaians. So if you take the trajectory of the finance minister, a number of issues have been raised, from conflict of interest. A number of issues have been raised about he not respecting Parliament. A whole lot of issues have been raised over a period of time. And then the last one is a call by the generality of Ghanaians, minority parliamentarians, and majority parliamentarians calling for his removal. So I think the last resource that is available from the oversight body, that is Parliament, is the vote of censure. So I believe it is not a tool that can frequently be used. I would say that it's a tool that is going to be used for arrogant ministers who don't respect the expression of the people. I think we have seen it in the UK recently, when few members of the party of Boris Johnson were not on the same page with him, he resigned. The same thing applies to the
Liz Truss.
finance minister. The same thing applies to the lady that was appointed as Prime Minister for about 45 days. So it's just because of there is some arrogance of power. That is what we have gotten to this point. So I do not think that it's a tool that can frequently be used.
Very well. Thank you so much. Honorable Minister Hussein, we are out of time, but just a yes or no answer to this. Do you think that the majority MPs can follow through their threats to boycott the budget hearing or presentation? Yeah, just yes or no?
Oh, yeah, they will definitely follow through their threats. And that's why I see that the budget which has been slated to be presented on 24th of November might run into problems. And that will further exacerbate our economic situation.
Very well.
If the 136 members of parliament decide that since they are pushing a motion of censure against the finance minister, they will not also do business with the finance minister until the motion is defended. The finance minister will not have quorum in parliament to present his budget.
Very well. Thank you so much, the Honourable Inusaf Hussein, the former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, on the ticket of the NDC. You also heard Dr. Patrick Esumi, Senior Lecturer, University of Ghana Business School, and Professor Gachi, John Gachi, Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making time for us. And you out there, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned to Citi TV. My name is Selorm Adonoo. Have a good evening.
This is Qatar. We come together tonight, a billion of us, in every corner of the globe where the beautiful game matters.
Here for the show-stopping magic of a moment.
Get DSTV access with an HD decoder plus dish kit for only 169 Ghana cedis and upgrade to compact to watch all the 64 matches. Here for every fan.
So, Qatar will host the 2022 World Cup, despite never playing in the tournament before.
Let's be honest, how many players of the Qatar team can you name?
I don't know. And what about these pesky rumors about Qatar, such as they bought everything, including players? Or they naturalize everything that moves? Is that so?
I want to find out what they are really about, how they became what they are, and who they actually are.
Well, they're not precisely nobodies. Reigning Asian champions and ranked 49th in the world. That's higher up than Saudi Arabia and Ghana, who will also be at the World Cup. The country has 2.8 million inhabitants, but only about 11% of them are citizens. That's just 300,000 people, roughly the population of Leicester in the UK.
How can you put together an Asian champion from such a small pool? A pool that gets even smaller when you think about it. Because only about half of the 300,000 are actually men, of course.
I hear you say, well, Leicester won the Premier League, so why can't Qatar win the Asian Cup?
True, but did Leicester win it with players from Leicester only? And this is where I want to have a closer look.
Of course, the majestic Aspire Academy in Qatar's capital Doha plays a big role here. But let's start by looking at where it all began. Qatar played their first official match in 1970 against neighbors Bahrain and lost. 3 years later, legendary Brazilian Pelé came for a friendly. Though that didn't prevent Qatar from dropping out of their first World Cup qualifiers in 1977. But only 4 years later, they surprised the football world. At the 1981 Youth World Championship in Australia, Qatar made it to the final. Their coach, Evaristo de Macedo from Brazil, a Barca star from the late 50s and early 60s. He would mastermind upset victories against both England and Brazil. In the final, Qatar were then thrashed by West Germany in heavy Sydney rain. Evaristo de Macedo still remembers that day vividly.
Perdemos a final porque a FIFA não quis nos ouvir. Estava temporal muito grande, o campo estava encharcado. E é evidente que nós lá nunca jogamos assim. Lá o sol é o ano inteiro. E então isso favoreceu muito a equipe alemã.
Qatar gets just 80 millimeters of rainfall each year, as little as almost nowhere else in the world. Playing under the rain is best trained outside of Qatar.
Besides me being a great meteorological guru, bringing in foreign expertise became a pattern in Qatari football.
The Gulf country trusted coaches from abroad with big expectations, but they weren't too patient with them. Between 1969 and 2022, Qatar had 43 different national coaches. Only 3 of them were Qataris, the rest from Egypt, France, Uruguay, Brazil, Bosnia-Herzegovina and counting. Compare that to other nations. Germany had 9 coaches in that same period, all of them German. France had 12, all French but 1. England had 19, all English but 2. And Brazil 24. Sounds a lot, but nothing in comparison to Qatar. Under a bunch of Brazilian coaches, including de Macedo, Qatar did actually progress. They hit a peak in 1993 when they were ranked 53rd in the world. But World Cup finals? Never. The turn of the millennium marked a new era for Qatar's overall approach to sport, with one big culmination point hosting the 2022 World Cup.
Os resultados que nós conseguimos fizeram com que a cúpula de Qatar, né, quisesse fazer a Copa do Mundo.
Qatar's strategy when it comes to sport is analyzed on our channel in different stories. In this video, I'll stick to how this translates to the Qatar national football team on the pitch.
In the early 2000s, Qatar wanted to strengthen the men's football team, even before the World Cup was awarded in 2010, and made headlines with unorthodox naturalization plans. This is a guy called Ailton, a German Bundesliga star at the turn of the millennium. This is a guy called Dede, a Dortmund legend in the early 2000s. And this is a guy called Leandro, who also played at Dortmund in the same period. Qatar wanted to naturalize all 3 of them in 2004, even though none of the Brazilians had any ties with the country whatsoever. Qatar is usually strict when it comes to citizenship, as John McManus knows, who wrote this book called Inside Qatar.
You can't get it via birth. You can't sometimes even get it via your mother. It has to pass down the male lineage. So only if your father was a Qatari are you eligible. The Emir can make up to 50 people citizens a year, but that's obviously not a like mechanism for mass citizenship.
Nonetheless, Qatar wanted to bend their own rules to get these Brazilians, but FIFA blocked the move and tightened requirements. Footballers now need to spend at least some years in the country they wish to represent. So, Qatar didn't waste time and went to Uruguay in a bid to fulfill these new requirements, like in the case of Sebastián Soria. He was brought to the Qatari League in 2004 and in line with new FIFA rules could be naturalized in 2006. Soria retired from the national team in 2017, still lives in Qatar and is the second most capped Qatari international of all time with 126 appearances.
What?
Naturalized players soon became regulars for Qatar. Besides Soria, there was Brazilian Fabio Montesini and his compatriot Marconi.
But was that it? Is this how Qatar won the Asian Cup 2019? Football fans, you need to be strong now. We'll change the sport for 30 seconds.
In 2015, Qatar hosted the Handball World Cup and finished runners-up, out of nowhere. So what on earth happened? Well, the Qataris were called Capote, Markovic, Rouanet or Vidal. Fine handballers, no doubt, but they originally hailed from Cuba, Montenegro, France and Spain. Was it the same pattern as in football? Short answer, no. Handball has more lax naturalization rules. A year later, Qatar's star-studded ensemble were knocked out in the quarterfinals of the Olympics.
30 seconds. You made it.
Qatar's handball glory was short-lived. Funding for the sport was cut dramatically. But in football, the cash kept flowing as Qatar continued to fund their massive talent school. The Aspire Academy, a glittering palace built at a cost of $1.4 billion. Hiba Sabah is a football expert from Jordan and has visited Aspire frequently.
بالعودة إلى عام 2004 تأسست أكاديمية أسباير، ويمكن كان الهدف منها في ذلك الوقت أكاديمية رياضية تبحث عن الوجوه الصاعدة، تبحث عن الوجوه الواعدة، تبحث عن الموهوبين.
Remember how many people in Qatar are actually citizens? Correct, the population of Leicester. Now, the Aspire Academy scouts 5,000 boys annually in Qatar, all aged 11. The most talented ones get a grant for the Aspire Academy. There, they are trained and receive school education from the ages 12 to 18. Aspire's work doesn't stop there, though. Thousands of kids were scouted in Africa, later also in Latin America and Southeast Asia. Between 2007 and 2014, 3.5 million boys from 17 countries were screened by Aspire. 3.5 million.
Is Aspire just making naturalization more covered by bringing in players from a younger age and then resettling them in the Gulf?
Qatar says no, we want to create more competition and expose our kids to higher quality players. Just like back in the 80s when Jimacedo took Qatar to Brazil. And today, the Qatari League also wants to expose its local talents to internationally experienced foreigners. It has been sporting aging stars for years, and not just for marketing reasons. From Marcel Desailly or Pep Guardiola in the 2000s to Xavi Hernandez in the 2010s and James Rodriguez most recently.
Here comes the money!
Here we go. Money talk.
Xavi's annual salary in Qatar was believed to be up to $10 million. But money aside, the objective is also to make Qatari players face the best of the best. And experience can also be achieved outside Qatar. The Aspire Academy owns clubs in Europe, such as 3rd Spanish Division side Cultural Leonesa and 1st Division Belgian club KAS Eupen. As of 2018, Aspire Academy also has an official partnership with Leeds United. The goal, to first develop young Qataris at home and then send them for some seasoning abroad. And even if they don't get much matchday experience, they still benefit from the training facilities and the professional environment.
And when they return to Qatar with that experience, they compete with and against other national team prospects.
And this strategy has paid off. Akram Afif and Almoez Ali were key players for Qatar when they won the Under-19 Asian Championship in 2014. Afif scored the winner in the final against North Korea, while Ali hit the net 3 times during the tournament. And they weren't the only ones to train at Aspire. The whole Qatari team was developed at the academy. That generation went on to lift the big one, the Asian Cup in 2019, which managed to rally the Qatari population behind them.
Before then, many people watched their games and were interested in them, but I think that moment crystallized, like they were truly a national team that everybody had heard of and everybody followed.
Almoez Ali scored 9 goals in that tournament and became the face of the squad. Ali and Akim Afif's paths are somewhat emblematic. Ali spent 7 years at Aspire, then moved to Eupen, had a short spell at Lask in Austria, another club with links to Qatar, then continued at Cultural Leonesa before returning home. Similar story for left-winger Afif, who was the 2019 Asian Player of the Year. After a stint at Eupen, he became the first Qatari in Spain's La Liga at Villarreal, before returning home. Now, winning a big international tournament makes you a close-knit group. But there is more. All players from the 2022 Qatar team hail from the domestic league. And they reached the semi-finals of the Gold Cup in 2021, going out to the United States. US coach Greg Berhalter said this about the Qatar national football team. They almost operate like a team club. The guys come to Aspire to do regeneration every week. They get to spend time with each other, look at the games, analyze it. It's a really unique model.
is this model now completely free from naturalizations? Short answer again, no.
The 2022 squad consists of 13 players born in Qatar, but 10 of them were still born overseas. The difference, however, only 3 of the foreign-born players had no connection to Qatar before they arrived as professional footballers. Top striker Ali is in a different category. He was born in Sudan, but relocated to Qatar with his family as a young child. Science calls this connection a socio-economic citizenship, a category that certainly applies to what other countries do. For example, former German international Lukas Podolski was born in Poland. Francis Samuel Umtiti in Cameroon. Both left their home countries aged 2 and represented their countries of socio-economic citizenship, so to say, many moons later. But back to Qatar.
Unlike those South Americans who were parachuted in previously, players like Ali have ties to Qatar that go beyond just money.
And while Qatar's coach, Felix Sanchez-Bas, was parachuted in from Spain, that was back in 2006. After a decade coaching the youth teams, he was promoted to the head coach role in 2017 and delivered the 2019 Asian Cup. It appears the days when Qatar's coaches only lasted a year or two are over.
This guy wins the biggest tournament that Qatar has ever won. And, you know, obviously you can't then stack the coach. This is probably the most success you've ever achieved.
إذا اللاعبين اللي شفناهم عم بيلعبوا في الفئات العمرية وفي منتخبات الناشئين اليوم بنشوفهم يلعبون في الصفوف الأولى في المنتخب القطري. هذا يعني بأن هذه الأكاديمية بالفعل قدمت برامج ممنهجة وأنشأت جيل رياضي اليوم.
Where is Qatar going with this scheme of chemistry, cohesion, and still naturalization? Former Australia international Tim Cahill, Chief Sports Officer of Aspire Academy, says the academy is the national team. We have infrastructure in place for many, many years to come to make sure we can keep making and nurturing talent. Qatar has turned into a continental giant in Asia. Even though the country still has fewer than 7,500 registered footballers, they managed to craft a team that outclassed a continent of 4.6 billion people.
The way that they approach the building of a World Cup side has been actually kind of exemplary. You know, getting good coaches, get kids young, and generate like a culture of togetherness, and train them and keep them together, and really just try and eke out the best games you can.
Impressive, or just oil money infused madness?
What do you think? Aspire is a project obviously not too short on cash. Then again, shouldn't we praise Qatar for building a strong national team, even if it's down to money? It apparently works. And just a quick disclaimer, no, I'm not sponsored by Qatar Airways. Looking forward to reading your comments, boys and girls.
Whether you're playing at the top level or a little lower down, recruiting the right players can make a team or break a team. So, how do clubs know who has what it takes? Is artificial intelligence the future of recruiting?
We can predict and simulate how well a player is likely to link up with new teammates at a new team.
Or is the scout watching on from the sidelines impossible to replace?
We're going out to watch players visually rather than on paper. I think it's a bit different, to be honest with you.
The human eye or AI? The office or the terraces? How exactly do you find the next world-class player?
You know, we see a lot of players that are good on the ball, maybe not so good off of the ball. The understanding of the game, so the mental side is big. Their decision making, that's what I look for.
That's John Willis. He works as a regional scout for Manchester United and runs UK Football Scouting, an organisation which tries to match unattached players with clubs. This is one of the ways clubs around the world have traditionally found their talent. Scouts like John watch local leagues, youth leagues, school games, trial days and lower league matches. They're all searching for that elusive diamond in the rough. The scout's eye test still matters, but statistics have become increasingly essential to all top clubs. While pass numbers, running stats and expected goals give a picture of the player, it's not complete. That's where AI can help to pick a player. With transfer fees in the hundreds of millions and wages through the roof, big clubs around Europe have spoken with AI Abacus. The scouting startup intends to revolutionize football transfers, with artificial intelligence that shows clubs how well a transfer will work out before they splash the cash. AI can tell Manchester City whether they should sign Harry Kane, Erling Haaland, or Kylian Mbappe based on how well they will fit in both on and off the pitch.
AI will be more and more accepted. At the moment, it's really split, I would say, amongst clubs. It's definitely, in the last even 2 or 3 years, come on massive amounts, and there's more trust being used in these models. Teams like Liverpool and Man City have great data science teams, which are really helping the rest of the industry see the value in this.
The company was set up by Ram Vaganam, the founder of Prozone. It shot to fame in the mid-90s when Manchester United assistant manager Steve McLaren was one of the first to use it. The data Prozone provided helped United win their historic treble in 1999. Before this, the use of in-depth statistics was almost unheard of in football. Soon after, everyone wanted to crunch the numbers.
Anyway, this is Prozone.
Arsenal, Manchester United, Liverpool, Real Madrid, Barcelona and Bayern Munich. Europe's leading clubs need that extra edge, and Prozone is their high-tech tool of choice. Cameras positioned around the pitch feed straight into a computer that tracks the movement of all 22 players and the ball. There's nowhere to hide.
It is a significant advantage because you have more information. So it's like all. Then it depends what you do with it.
Things have moved on a bit since then, and there's more information available than ever. But AI Abacus think they can move past the numbers to predict whether a transfer will be a hit or a miss, based partly on a new innovation called a chemistry rating.
Our sort of USP is trying to help teams be able to simulate a transfer and see how a player is likely to turn out at a new club. So we look at things like the languages they might speak, if they've played together before, if there's certain style attributes that link well together.
On-pitch relationships like the one between Erling Haaland and Marco Reus can be hugely valuable to clubs. Players like Thomas Müller and Robert Lewandowski responding to each other without obvious communication are more difficult to predict for opponents. But will that change? Will AI be able to see the future? How does it work? Let's say Manchester City want to buy a striker. First, they need to narrow the field down from hundreds of thousands to something more manageable. This is done by position, eligibility, age and ability, as judged by the AI model. Now, 19 potential targets remain. Let's dig a little deeper. Those 19 players have been rated on all manner of metrics, from progressive passing and creativity to their resistance to pressure and aerial ability. But here's the bit that AI Abacus say sets them apart: simulating a transfer. First, the players are plotted on a graph according to how they will fit in at City, both tactically and in their chemistry with existing players. From that, Pep Guardiola and his recruitment team might identify 3 players: Harry Kane, Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe. Now, we have the stats, but what about the chemistry? The AI assigns a chemistry rating of 85 to Mbappe, 84 to Kane, and just 75 to Haaland. Why so low? One reason is that the Norwegian has never previously played with any of City's current squad. Though he's expected to link up well on the pitch with several City stars, it's more difficult to predict how fruitful those relationships will be. Kane scores higher on this measure, having played for England with the likes of Jack Grealish, Raheem Sterling and Phil Foden, and is at a similar age to the majority of the players already at the club. But perhaps surprisingly, Mbappe edges ahead, even though he doesn't speak English as well as the other two. The way he linked up with players like Bernardo Silva at Old Club Monaco offers an insight onto how quickly he could integrate at City, while his predicted relationships with 7 of the team's key creators bodes well. But would they be able to cope with Guardiola's demanding tactics? The AI says Kane would struggle to adapt to City's attacking structures and high press. Mbappe scores well in possession, but is not attuned to City's methods in transition, giving him only a moderate tactical fit. This is where Haaland shines. His natural game matches City well almost across the board, in possession and out. He should be able to hit the ground running. The final factor to take into account is the financials, where once again Haaland comes out on top and Kane loses significant ground. Mostly because he's older than the other two, so has a lower resale value. With all the angles covered, who should City sign? The answer is Erling Haaland. Though his chemistry rating was lower than the other two, his seamless tactical fit and the financials edge him ahead of Mbappe, while Kane is some way behind. Well, why do we need humans then? Because there's still plenty about players that you just can't see on a screen. Mark Farrell scouts youth players for English club Peterborough United after previously working at Arsenal. Even for academy prospects, he finds out as much as possible about a player before taking them on.
Scouting is not just going and watch a player for 5 minutes and saying that they're going to be, the next Ronaldo. Sometimes the best players don't stand out. You have to look at their personality on the pitch. You've got to understand why, if there's a player, say, I don't know, number 7 that we've gone to watch, why is he underperforming from our report? Could be anything, it could be something at home. It's not every week they're going to perform just like how we go to work and not perform every day or every week. So it is really taking time and looking at players week in, week out,
So, will we soon see the end of transfer flops? All the data in the world didn't stop Real Madrid blowing 100 million on Eden Hazard. Manchester United releasing the expensive Alexis Sanchez on a free. Or PSG splashing out on and then loaning out Jose Rodriguez. There's little doubting the importance of statistics, but putting in the hours on the terraces should not be underestimated. Leicester City's Premier League win in 2016 owed plenty to Riyad Mahrez, Jamie Vardy and N'Golo Kante, who cost less than 11 million euros combined, or about a tenth of a Hazard. Vardy and Mahrez were spotted by Leicester scout Steve Walsh, who had actually been intending to watch other players. Turning up in the right place at the right time made the difference. Plenty still slipped through the net though. Vardy, for example, was still playing non-league football in his early 20s.
You will be here next year? No, I'm signing for Ibiza Town. I'm going to Ibiza on holiday and I'm never coming back.
He's not the only one. Milan's Junior Messias didn't turn pro until he was 24, delivering fridges and working on building sites to make ends meet. Wolfsburg hero Grafice went from selling bin bags in Brazil to the Bundesliga title. And of course there's cult hero Luca Toni. Who bounced around the lower divisions in Italy before getting his big break in his 20s. With increased statistics and AI becoming available at lower levels, the best players should start to be picked up earlier. But there's a long way to go. For youngsters who missed out on academies, the best hope remains getting spotted by a scout.
My name's Jack Cutmore. I'm aspiring to be a professional football player. I'm 19 years old. I'm following my dream, basically. I got support of my family and friends, so I decided to come all the way to the UK from Australia. You see those stories and it always motivates you to push harder. Like, even though I'm 19 and haven't come through that academy stages, you still always think I can make it because you look at those kind of role models that have done it before and they're at the top of their game, that's kind of the dream. No matter what happens, you just got to keep pushing.
It seems there will always be players that won't have been analysed or whose qualities have been missed by the machines.
You get some that just have never been in the right place at the right time, if you like, that have never been seen by scouts. And you've got others that may have grew up in academy, got released for a variety of reasons. Players develop at different times as well. There's still plenty of scouts out and about a game, so I think you always will have that. I think the data will assist it.
I think there's a real nice sweet spot between AI helping humans make better decisions and being able to sort of simulate and see where the decision may go. I don't see it being some sentient being taking over all of football and there being AI managers, but yeah, I definitely see there being a way that you can work together. It speeds up their job by being able to bring the pool down to a smaller set of players. They can then have their own opinions about them players and then get assurance around those opinions based off of what the AI is saying.
It's early days for AI in football, and we're a long way from sci-fi scenes of robots in the dugouts. But high-quality information leads to better scouting. Without the right players and chemistry, teams will go nowhere. Just as they need to find the blend between attack and defense, clubs must recruit smartly by balancing algorithms and data with human judgment and experience. After all, the next Erling Haaland or Kylian Mbappe will probably be found by a human, but you can be sure he'll also have been measured, tracked and rated by a machine.
Ukraine's fault. Russia bears ultimate responsibility as it continues its illegal war against Ukraine.
Authorities in Dominican Republic are sending detained Haitian refugees back to their country. Gang warfare and political turmoil have fueled an exodus from neighbouring Haiti in recent months, but many refugees say they've built new lives across the border. Kenya's former President Uhuru Kenyatta is urging warring sides in the Democratic Republic of Congo to start talks. Fighting between Congolese soldiers and M23 fighters is moving closer to the eastern city of Goma. Iranian state media is reporting at least 5 people have been killed by unknown gunmen at a bazaar in the southwestern city of Izeh. 6 others are said to be wounded in the attack. State buildings have also been set on fire, and there's been ongoing and widespread protests in the Khuzestan province where the shooting took place. The latest inflation figures from the United Kingdom show rates have hit a 41-year high. The Office for National Statistics says the rate of inflation for October rose 11.1%. Now, the increase has been blamed on surging energy bills and food prices. UK Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt is due to unveil a new budget on Thursday. Those are your top stories. You're up to date. Stay with us. Fault Lines is coming up next. Bye-bye.
When I'd ask him to do something, and he would ask me over and over again, what did I need again? Or driving somewhere and going to the wrong place. Instead of the grocery store, he might be sitting at the stadium.
At a stadium?
Thinking it's ready for practice. He accidentally put the dirty laundry in the freezer and thought it was the washing machine. He said, I told you, I have it.
I have it?
Yeah.
What?
CTE.
Michelle Hasselrigg's husband, Carlton Hasselrigg, was an all-pro lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers and New York Jets in the 1990s. For years, he suspected he had chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE.
I want to show you something.
A degenerative brain disease that scientists believe is endemic to the game of professional football.
Oh, here it is. Oh, Lord. I'm scared.
Why are you scared?
Because you'll see.
Help me! Daddy! From Father!
He was yelling for his grandfather.
Father!
And his dad, which was Fred Hasselrigg, who are both deceased.
I already know you're not going to take care of me.
Those days right there were every day. Every day for at least 6 months. That bad.
Carlton was one of nearly 5,000 NFL players who sued the league more than a decade ago.
And, for the most part, they all have the same claim, which was like, we were not told about this risk. Not only were we not told about it, but, you, the NFL, actually, covered up this risk. There's been congressional hearings into this.
Are you going to pay the injured players and their families for the injuries that they have received in helping you to be a multi-billion-dollar operation? That's the only question.
I believe that we will be addressing these matters in a responsible fashion, that we'll be able to come back before you at some point in time and say that we have addressed these in a way that's responsible.
The NFL is the richest and most powerful sports league in the United States. And American football is also very popular at the youth level, particularly in American high schools. You wrap your flag around it, and it's just such a place of exalted Americana. I think what the threat the NFL was under, do you lose that place of cultural primacy as America's sport?
After years of pressure, in 2013, the NFL reached a settlement with Carlton and thousands of other players agreeing to make payouts to players with brain disease. But when the league's top official went on TV to talk about it, he made sure to emphasize that the NFL was not responsible for CTE among its players.
And what we were able to do was all compromise on our positions. There was no admission of guilt. There was no recognition that anything was caused by football. But the reality is we want to help our players.
And when you heard there was a settlement, did you think that was a good thing?
I did, absolutely.
And to Carlton?
Yes, we really did.
What did you think was going to happen now that the NFL had settled?
That everybody was going to get what was owed to them.
But Carlton never got any settlement money or medical assistance from the concussion settlement.
What happened?
And neither have thousands of other retired NFL players.
The settlement was never designed to pay former NFL players for what they were suffering from as a result of playing football. Never designed that way. It's a sham.
If the NFL's goal was get this out of the news cycle so people aren't thinking about these depressing stories of damaged former players, and they're also not thinking about in general how football causes brain damage, because that's not great for our product either. If we can take those out of the news, it's a huge win for us as the NFL.
Did the NFL take responsibility for the damage inflicted on its players? Or was this settlement intended to deflect public attention and protect the future of America's most powerful sports league?
Hasselrig in the light blue is ranked #2 in the country.
In some ways, Carlton Hasselrig's road to the NFL was improbable.
As he does, and boom, he's in on a quick double. That'll score.
He started out as a wrestler, winning 6 individual college championships, the most of anyone in history.
And the result was a national championship. He took a wild shot and just blocked it and blocked pretty well and spun around.
Carlton was the best of the best. There's no doubt about it. You knew there was something special about him.
When he decided he wanted to play football professionally, Carlton tried out and was drafted by his beloved Pittsburgh Steelers in 1989.
Growing up, my early heroes were, at that time, all of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, there were times when Coach McCord had said, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. You'll play NFL, you'll play in the NFL.
He plays in the NFL despite coming from a college with no football program. That's where he became a guy who played in the Pro Bowl. I mean, it's amazing.
And Pro Bowl guard Carlton Hasselrig.
Great block. I tell everybody, man, he was Michael Jordan to us around here. One of the strongest mentally tough person that I've ever been around. People always talk about his physical strength. His mental toughness was something that I seen that stood alone from anybody else, and it made you believe in yourself.
Me and Carlton had 3 kids. Kentara, CJ, this is in order, and then Carly. He always thanked me so much for giving him these children. He was a good father. He was funny. Anything that I needed him to do, he would do without question. He would play with all the kids in the block. They loved him. He would fix their bikes. He would do anything. He would work in the yard. He would barbecue. He was just that all-American dad.
Carlton left the NFL in 1996. In the years after, he was a football and wrestling coach.
Well, right now I'm coaching high school football for the Greater Johnstown High School, and also assistant wrestling coach for Greater Johnstown High School. I'm just so pleased and happy to be back at home and have the opportunity to work with the kids here at home.
When did you start to notice a change in him?
Sometimes Carlton would go off on his own and he would drink, or he would talk to himself, or be in the basement. You can hear him like yelling something, but we wouldn't know what. And then sometimes he would just go away and leave, and I wouldn't see him for a day.
Will Harris coached wrestling with Carlton and remembers seeing a change in him in 2017 when they went to the state championship.
Every bit of downtime that we had, he spent alone in his room, lights off, no TV, no phone, no nothing, just in a, it was like he was sick, like he was down.
Freddie Hasselred.
Carlton told his family he believed the problems he was having were caused by head trauma he suffered while playing in the NFL.
This is Carlton Hasselred's helmet from the last year he did play for the Steelers. It said the deep gouges, and deep gouges, and boom. When I looked at it and saw it initially, I thought about his brain, his head being bruised because of the blunt force that he got playing that position.
The brain itself doesn't have any nerve endings to feel pain, pain receptors. And so they just keep on getting more and more blows to the brain. Concussions are just at the surface of what's seen. What about hit after hit after hit, with the brain moving around? And all of the research so far indicates that it's the repetitive nature of the blows that lead to risk for later life disease, including CTE.
The mood and behavior symptoms that are a huge part of CTE, anger, irritability, suicidality, like you can't really hold a job because you're explosive now. Or all of a sudden, like you've been a sober person all your life and now you just love drinking and you're a compulsive gambler, and that's come out of almost seemingly nowhere. When you talk to the families and loved ones of these guys, and they will say that, like, he's a totally different person. I don't know what happened.
How many NFL players do you think will develop CTE?
From what we've learned since we started looking for CTE is that percentage, that number of the people that do end up with it seems to be climbing. The more we look, the more we find.
In our reporting, we kind of started to piece something together. And I'm just going to show you, see what you think of it. Do you know who this is? Number 74.
No.
His name's Terry Long, and he is who Carlton replaced.
He's the one who
as
killed himself.
right guard. Killed himself, that's right. He drank antifreeze. This is Carlton here.
Yeah.
He played right guard, and to his right, his immediate right, Justin Sterling.
So that was his friend.
That was his friend. You know what happened to Justin? He drove into a fuel tanker at 90 miles an hour and died in the crash.
And I remember the day it happened because my husband was very sad.
These guys were number 3 and 4 CT that they discovered.
Yeah. They were all together playing in the same line. What does that tell you?
And the months before Carlton died, Michelle began recording videos of him.
Okay, so now.
Oh, I started all these recordings so people would believe me. Nobody would believe me.
What happened?
He had cirrhosis of his liver disease, but he thought he was okay. Your brain tells you what to do. So his brain's telling him that he's fine. So he doesn't want to go to the hospital. He was mad at me because we were trying to make him go to the doctors.
like it sounded. I already know you're not gonna take care of me. Help me. Dad! Father!
That's what the end was like.
Yes.
Just when I died, is this the day? What's the day of it? Yeah, it might be it, huh? Man, sorry. Sorry, y'all. Sorry, y'all.
Carlton died a month later, on July 22nd, 2020. He was 54.
And is there any doubt in your mind what caused that decline?
There's no doubt in my mind what caused the decline.
What caused it?
It's CTE.
And is there any doubt in your mind where he would have gotten CTE?
I know where he got CTE from.
Where?
Football, the NFL.
CTE can only be diagnosed definitively once a person's dead and their brain has been examined. Since 2002, more than 300 NFL players have been found to have had the disease. Michelle donated Carlton's brain to the CTE Center at Boston University. It was one of Carlton's dying wishes.
And why did he want it donated to Boston?
CTE for the concussion lawsuit, and that we would be taken care of because we were told with the settlement, if you had CTE, that was the most that you would get paid for, which was $5 million.
If his brain's tested and if he has CTE, his wife, Michelle, would obviously get compensated since he died of what this settlement's really about, right?
No, he wouldn't be compensated.
But if he died and it's proven that he had CTE?
No, he wouldn't be compensated. You had to have died and proven to have CTE between, I believe it's 2006 and 2015. That's the window. I mean, to me, it's one of the great crimes of this settlement, that there's this cutoff date. If you have CTE and did not die before 2015, and they take your brain and they look at it under a microscope and they find CTE, you're out of luck. I'm sorry you didn't die before 2015. Good luck to you and your family.
How much money did the NFL save by cutting CTE out of the settlement?
We imagine that over the 65-year period that this would have been in place, anywhere, conservative estimates are $3 billion, and more probably realistic benefits are somewhere around $7 billion.
The settlement has paid out nearly $1 billion to retire players and covers 3 neurodegenerative diseases: ALS, Parkinson's disease, and Alzheimer's.
1 billion sounds like a very impressive number. That is, unless it's supposed to be $8 or $9 billion.
For former NFL players who believe they have or might develop CTE, the NFL concussion settlement designed a set of tests to measure cognitive impairment. Carlton took these tests in 2017, 3 years before he died. If these tests confirmed that Carlton was cognitively impaired, he would have qualified for an award from the NFL concussion settlement.
He didn't qualify for anything.
Nothing.
Based on their test.
Yes.
And this is the test from the neurologist that you shared with us. Executive functioning, they said his impairment level is none. Language impairment level is none. Visual perceptual processing impairment level none. Learning and memory functioning impairment level none. Does this ring true to you? His wife's responses suggested that Mr. Hasselrig has generally subtle function difficulties in daily life.
Somebody putting their laundry in a freezer. Is that subtle? Somebody that doesn't know where to go get his coffee, that he's been getting it for the last 15, 20, 30 years. Is that subtle?
It would take several years for Michelle to learn what happened with Carlton's test. In 2019, 2 former players sued the NFL for discrimination, claiming the league was factoring in race when diagnosing players with cognitive impairment. They used a process called race norming. Carlton and other retired black players had to score significantly worse on their tests to qualify for an award from the NFL.
It means that they have determined that if you are born black, that you have less cognitive function from birth than your white counterpart. It is used to deny benefits economically for 70% of the class. 70% of former players are black. In an industry where the wealth was built on the backs of black and brown men.
We didn't know none of, like, any of this.
Your neurologist, your neuropsychologist didn't explain to you that your scores will be adjusted based on the fact you're an African-American male? They didn't tell Carlton that to your knowledge?
Absolutely not. Carlton wouldn't have did it. Absolutely not.
Wait, is this software specific to the settlement?
It is specific to the settlement.
Using the NFL concussion settlement software, Dr. Eric Watson at the Brain Injury Research Center at Mount Sinai Hospital was able to show us the impact race had on Carlton's ability to qualify for an award from the NFL.
In generating these scores, it's easy enough to adjust the scores to see what the scores would look like if you were white.
So if we took race norms out, these would be Carlton scores here?
Yes.
These are the direct changes. Wow.
The labels are...
Oh, these are totally different. Yeah, these are totally different. Severe impairment? Nothing was severe impairment on the other one.
No.
I mean, this is a quantum difference, not a small difference.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It's almost like a completely different person.
Right. With one click of a button, you go from a man who is qualified for part of the settlement to a man who's not.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Look at the numbers. It's not even a little, it's a lot.